Today's session will focus on the super important topic of tackling antisocial behaviour. So during this morning, we'll be exploring how community rail groups and their partners can work together to bring innovative solutions to this challenging and sometimes dangerous issue. You'll be hearing from within Community Rail about some of the ways this is already being tackled and the impact that these projects have had. We hope you'll go away feeling inspired to find your own creative ways to approach dealing with antisocial behaviour with a longer term view. You may even choose to follow some examples you'll hear about today, as the projects being shared are eminently replicable. I'm glad I managed to get that out in one go. I'm delighted to be joined today by our panellists. Thank you all for being here. And first, you'll be hearing from Justyna Majer, the Community Rail Officer for the Robin Hood Line, and Kaye Robinson, Community Engagement Manager with East Midlands Railway. Then after break, we have Becky Stiles and Sarah Morgan. Both are Regional Communities and Sustainability Managers with Northern. Sarah was until recently, Community Rail Officer with Crewe to Manchester and South East Manchester CRPs as well. And she sort of wears both hats for the purpose of speaking about their project today. So before we dive fully into the webinar, I'll quickly run through the usual housekeeping. And I know everyone's familiar with Zoom functions now, but please rename yourselves if you haven't already. Right click on your name on screen and rename yourself with your full name and your organisation. The webinar, as you will have heard, is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website along with the presentation slides. The chat and Q&A functions, the buttons at the bottom, you can use the Q&A button when we get to that section to ask a question there and we'll ask on your behalf, or you can use the raised hand function to ask specific questions when we're at that point as well. And the chat option is for any general comments or ideas you'd like to share as we go along. Okay. Technical issues, Hannah's supporting with this in the background as always. So if you've any Zoom related technical difficulties, please just text Hannah with your name and she'll call you back as soon as possible. Her number it will be in the chat in a moment and it's also in your joining instructions as well. And just to mention the feedback survey, which will pop up automatically as the webinar closes. So please take a few minutes to complete this anonymously, of course. So without further ado, I'm delighted to now introduce our first panellist to talk about their Bolsover Railway Safety Distraction Project. And it's over to you, Justyna.
Thank you, Hazel. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is Justyna Majer, and I'm the Community Rail Officer for Robin Hood Line. Sorry, just try to find my presentations to share with you. I hope you all can see. Oh, sorry, just go to the, that's it. And I'm look after Robin Hood Line. That's the line between the Nottingham and the workshop. And one of the projects what we run is the Bolsover Railway Safety Distraction Projects, You versus Train. And you can see logos of supporters for this project. Was funded by UK government, Community Rail Network, Community Safe Partnership, Cross Country, East Midlands Rail, Bolsover Partnerships, Bolsover Districts, and Community Rail Network and Robin Hood Line. And I just want to talk a little bit why these projects, reasons and identified needs. The Bolsover Railway Safety Distraction Project was developed to address pressing issues facing communities along the Robin Hood Line, particularly antisocial behaviour and rail-related safety risk. With stations located in some of the most deprived area in Bolsover districts, there is significant needs for positive, engaging interventions that boost well-being, providing constructive activity and promote safe behavior around rail infrastructure. And the reasons was to, of course, the reduce antisocial behavior around rail infrastructures. Young people in Bolsover's most deprived communities, many of which are close to Robin Hood line stations, face limited access to activities and support that makes them more vulnerable to negative influence and risky behavior near trains and tracks. And to improve well-being and build pride and play in place through enjoyable physical activities led by trained coaches, the project fosters a sense of belonging, confidence, and connections to their community. And of course, it's to increase awareness of safety, jobs, and the futures by embedding message around rail safety, as well as showcasing apprenticeships and career link to the rail network. The project's open door to young people might not have considered before. And identified the needs. It's, of course, evidence from the index of multiple deprivations, showing that many communities served by the Robin Hood line fall with the most deprived bands nationally. Data highlighting higher levels of ASB, especially involving youth, and ongoing issues of low car ownerships, transport inequality, and social isolations, and the lack of accessible structural activities for young people in these localities. The projects tackle these needs head-on by drawing young people into fun, meaningful sessions and connecting them to the future opportunities while keeping safe and behavior firmly on the radar. And I just would like to show the video. But I've got some IT issue. Could I just ask you, Hannah, to show the video, and I will stop sharing my slide now. Sorry.
I'm ready in the background, Justyna.
Lovely.
Bear with me.
Yep. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm ready now.
Where is the video? Now I can't find it. There it is.
So if you just mute as well, Justyna.
Right. Going to go back to the beginning. Okay. Is this working?
That's fine, Hannah.
Right, so my name's Thomas Lodge. I work for Bolsover District Council, and my primary role is a sports coach. So I go into lots of different schools to coach, and I do lots of outreach work, like you can see behind me today. So it's a great project that we've started up. So we've been working with yourselves, trying to raise awareness of rail safety. So it's an integral part of, I'd say, the child's knowledge nowadays. It's something I did learn in school, how to behave on the tracks, or even where they are positioned. And around this sort of area, there's a lot of youths that don't have anything to do, and sometimes they'll revert to situations where they put themselves in danger. So we've been kind of raising awareness of the safeties, kind of drip feeding it into our sessions. We lead with sport, so I think sport's a great tool that we use, obviously, to get the kids engaged in the first place. So we run various different activities, and as we're playing, whenever there's an infill or at the end of the session, we'll hand leaflets out that we've got in our box here that's got lots of information on. I think just giving them facts and information about, obviously, the rail safety, it is an eye-opener for them. Obviously, at that sort of age, they kind of think they're invincible and they're untouchable. Anything can happen to anyone at any time, so if they're here, they're not there. A lot of these lads are getting to that age now, girls as well, where they might be kind of venturing onto a train on their own, and as you said, understanding of how to behave and even where to stand, and just being in social situations with people older than them, we can kind of give them advice on sort of how to behave. It's nice to see some of the kids mature a little bit, and even I've noticed changes in some of the lads from the very first week. They're like, oh, these coaches are here, you're this, that and the other, whatever. But they soon realise that, we're here to do a good thing, and they're on board with us now, and it's kind of a friendship thing. I think it's a great project, and I thoroughly enjoy delivering it, and the kids as well really enjoy just being out and doing something social as well.
Back to you, Justyna. Thank you.
Thank you. I will share again. I'll just go from that slide. And I just would like to add a little bit more about this program. The program was developed across 4 Bolsover District Council locations in the early evenings, and the time when the shops and other activities were already closed and there was little else available. And making this was ideal opportunity to engage young people to fill that gap. And that was as well very good to building relationships. To use a football as tool of engagement allowed the projects team to establish rapport with the participants. These initial interactions provide a foundations for deeper connections, creating a platform for more meaningful conversations about the rail safety and antisocial behavior over time. And introducing of rail safety informations. One trust and rapport were established. The team began introducing rail safety information through the U versus Train program. This gradual drip feed approach ensured the young people receive the necessary safety message. I would like to show you now the outcomes and the results about reducing antisocial behavior and long-term impact case studies. I would like to talk. And as you can see, the numbers, it's change. When you can see the cross, it was in Majer or was in the activities on that stage, around that stations. And reducing antisocial behavior, the project has led to the noticeable reducing in antisocial behavior across all 4 communities. The combination of engaging activities and target safety educations has contributed significantly to this positive shift and long-term impact. The successful integrations of sport and safety education has not only helped mitigate immediately issues, but also create our foundations for ongoing positive engagement with young people in this area. And the numbers, what you can see, what was measured, I just want to explain, this is ASB incidents. This is calls for service where the call center's operator has risk assesses the call and made the decisions to deploy an officer. And also is the record of contact calls for services that do not need a police resource being allocated and are instead dealt with entirely by the call handler and graded as a managed contact. Sorry, just a little bit mix up with. And I just would like to talk about couple case studies. One is general about volunteering development overview. The U versus Train program has been operational for 3 years in the villages and towns in Bolsover district. The diversionary program gives young people opportunity to engage in physical activities and learn the danger of the railway through leaflets and lectures with staff. We have young people of varied age and some over the age of 18 who are now looking to recruit as a volunteers and approach. Young people are unable to participate in our sessions when they turn 18 due to the health and safety regulations. To assure we don't exclude participants and ensure we keep connections with the young people, we have created our volunteer program. The volunteer roles give the young people the opportunity to experience the activity assistant role at Bolsover District Council. These roles involve supporting the coaches with tasks like setting up equipment, organizing teams. We can also look to support volunteers with courses including first aid, safeguarding, and the level 2 qualifications in sport leaderships. Volunteers also receive DBS check. And the results. Since the start, the program with the UKSPF funding in April 23, we identified 3 volunteers and weeks volunteered in total was 45 weeks, and we completed 2 DBS check as well. And 2 volunteers finished the course safeguarding and first aid. The results shows a good start and have given us good ground to build on. As time goes on and we look to recruit further, there is potential to create a voluntary academy where we can upskill and educate the young people as a group rather than individuals. And I've got individuals. It's Brandon is particularly has been a huge benefit to the program. Brandon is 23 years old, has learning difficulties, and as a result of his age, he is no longer able to attend college. This left Brandon concerned for the future as it's difficult for him to access most of jobs. The volunteer program has helped keep him involved in the sessions and has given him a focus. The education program has given him a focus on the mentorship from the staff will help Brandon in the positions where he can apply for activity assistant positions in Bolsover district councils in the future. This would be the vision for all the volunteers when they volunteer academy in up and running. And about what is the next, we're still running the football activities, but what is very important, we also listen the community voices, the young voices, what they want. And we introduce the OSBox. It's a little bit different activities in the Cresswell Heritage and Wellbeing Center, partner with OSBox to deliver non-contact boxing sessions in response to local youth disengagement and raising antisocial behavior by providing safe indoor spaces and value-based activities. The initiative re-engage young people, reducing antisocial behavior incidents and fostered self-esteem and community pride. The program's success highlighted the value of listening to young people, building long-term relationships, and collaborating with specialists providing for sustainable impact. And collaborating with external partners to delivering key milestones activities, including career guidance sessions and rail safety training, enhancing students' knowledge and promoting safe travel habits. Thank you very much for listening. I'm just stop sharing the slides now, and I would like to hand off to Kaye Robinson, East Midland Rail. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Lovely to see so many of you on the call. I'm just going to share my slides. Bear with me. Hopefully that's working. There we go. So I'm Kaye Robinson. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for East Midlands Railway, and we look after 6 community rail partnerships as our core partnerships and around, well, over 700 station adopters. My role particularly is around working in partnership with the community rail partners and station adopters and being sort of a conduit within the business to get to the right group. So I thought it would be really great to do this webinar to really showcase what EMR do in general, mainly around partnership working. So I thought we'd start with why it is just so important. And I know a lot of you will know this, but for EMR, we have a huge move towards antisocial behaviour and how we can tackle it and how we can work in partnership to do this. So why is it so important? Well, obviously passenger and staff safety is absolutely up there. The amount of incidences that are recorded are shocking. Antisocial behaviour is probably at an all-time high. So we have put lots and lots of different things in place, which you will see throughout this presentation, and hopefully give you some ideas about how you can take this through and work with your own train operating companies to sort of take part in some of these. We have a work-related violence working group within our business, where we make sure we have really stringent protocols so that when an incident happens to a staff and or passenger, we have a real clear chain of care and we respond to incidents to see what we could possibly do to ensure that doesn't happen again. We also have, like all train operators, a duty for safeguarding. We have a new safeguarding manager who has put us through our safeguarding accreditation. This is an accreditation that I think nearly all TOCs go through. It's mandated, and it absolutely ensures that we have the right thing in place for everybody involved in the industry. It isn't just about our staff, it's about my station adopters, it's about everybody that's involved is safe. It's also about enabling that education piece to take part so we can recognise when things aren't right. There's been a particular focus from the government on violence against women and girls, and we're noticing lots more incidences being reported now. There's also a really clear perception. We need to make sure we are tackling antisocial behaviour, exactly doing the things like Justyna's just spoken about, because we don't want antisocial behaviour we want our journeys to be as comfortable as possible. We want our stations to be as safe as possible. We need to be seen to be acting. We can't just sit back on our laurels. As you can imagine, there is also incredibly big financial implications. And we have a surface quality regime that we have to hit with there's stations where if there's broken glass, we don't want that left there, A, because it's not safe, and which is a good thing, we are pulled up on that. We can't have broken glass around a station. Our station adopters are wonderful and are our eyes and ears, particularly when it's particularly rural. But just some of the basic things that they do in terms of litter picking and reporting in these incidences means that we can really address those in a really timely manner. And then we also want to improve targeting of instances with multi-agency approach. And I'm going to speak a lot more about how we work with other agencies, including a group that the Robin Hood line are involved in, which links in nicely from Justyna's presentation. So what do we do? So partnership working, as I've just said, it just cannot be, the power of networking and working together cannot be underestimated. I've bolded that out in my presentation because it is just so important. Just as a small list of who we actually work with, there's BTP, Samaritans, the Railway Children, all our adopters and Community Rail Partnership. And then we have other key charitable groups like Stop the Bleed. With that partnership working, we can do more. And I thought it would be really nice just to talk about a couple of the projects where we have had a multifaceted approach and some of the outcomes of that. So first you'll see on the screen our Nottingham Station mural. And this started out as at Nottingham Station, for those of you who know it, for those of you who don't, we have a taxi rank at the bottom of the station, which was quite dull, not very safe, and that's where you would wait for the taxis. It just wasn't a nice space. We approached the Robin Hood line, the Poacher line, Community Rail Partnership, the Railway Children, to come together to say, what can we do here to make this a nicer space so that when you're waiting for your taxis, you just feel safer, in a nutshell. We got around a table and the Railway Children were absolutely brilliant in linking us in with a local youth group called Base 51. And Base 51 is a youth group in Nottingham where children are particularly vulnerable, high risk of being used for things like county lines. And we worked with them to create a concept and a design for the wall to create this mural. And as you can imagine, so much was the children, the youth got so much out of this. Not only did they get to have an influence on a large space in their city, which is just around the corner from the youth centre where they attended, we also did all of the other extra things like taking them on a train trip. They got lessons in art and graffiti style art. We encouraged them to have a say on everything that was important about them, about rail travel and where they may or may not have travelled to, but they would like to get to around, that can be got to from Nottingham Station. We also took the opportunity to speak to them about things like where they could potentially go on for their future careers, that the train can get them many places. So that was a really, really lovely project where we all worked together to sort of brighten up a really dreary area of the station, to be honest, and that was brilliant. Next on the list, we've got our NCS projects, and NCS stands for National Citizenship Service. This is a national scheme where 16 to 19-year-olds can get extra points towards going to uni by completing projects. I did a lovely I've done two really nice ones actually with our community rail partners, one on the Robin Hood line, and this was just a little bit before Justyna's day, and we worked at Mansfield with Mansfield Football Club, and we got the youth taking part to create their own rail safety campaign. And what was really lovely about this is we let them have a go on our social medias. They created really lovely posts to really emphasize why rail safety is so important and why you should be safe. They created their own TikToks. They came out and did some community action volunteering work with us. And what was another really fantastic thing is they actually turned it into a bilingual way, because there's actually lots of different communities that live on the Robin Hood line that don't have English as their first language. So they managed to use Polish and other languages to get those rail safety messages out there. And we found that's been a really useful approach across stations where we know there is a high area of English as additional language in the area. The next project was a Freshers' Fair that we took part in. This is at Nottingham again, and Nottingham has been quite a focal point for us due to the Robin Hood line being one of the main areas of antisocial behaviour. But the Freshers' Fair was in Nottingham, at Nottingham's Victoria Centre, and it was for not just Nottingham Uni, there's 2 universities in Nottingham, it was for the colleges as well. And we worked with Network Rail and British Transport Police to give out lots of things to keep young people safe while they're travelling. So it was really around safeguarding. We were really lucky that we had Network Rail, and Network Rail are fabulous for this if you can get the right contacts, and I'd be happy to support anyone to do that. But they brought their VR headsets, and the VR headsets were they were all the headsets show very near misses where you could be hit by a train and people not paying attention. They're really, really impactful. So we had that stall set up, and we're going again this year. We also do Lincoln Freshers' Fair because we have huge problems with antisocial behaviour where we have a lot of line crossing. We have a lot of international students in Lincoln, and they walk along the rail tracks. They have no idea how unsafe it is. So we work really hard to do Freshers' Fairs and use our community rail partnerships to come and spread that message with us. And we also have multi-agency targeted projects at hotspot areas, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about one we've done on the Robin Hood line just when I've gone through in the next couple of slides. Other approaches, education and training is super important for us, and particularly to our staff, our frontline staff. Our new safeguarding manager created a really lovely video and training e-learning module all around safeguarding and how to spot areas of vulnerability, children that may be vulnerable, adults that may be vulnerable, working together to ensure that we can do that. We also offer Samaritans training to our station adopters and community rail partners, because obviously there could be vulnerable people at the stations anytime that they are volunteering or working in those areas. We also have a crime and security roadshow, and that involves taking our crime and security team out to the ground, to the front line, and we get our community rail partners involved to really talk about what we're doing, how you can download different apps, how we can do different things. So some of you may know about the Railway Guardian app. It's now called the Travel Guardian because it's expanded to all areas of public transport. And that app is really, really good. And they've seen incidences increase by, and reports of incidences, sorry, increase by 51%. And that is phenomenal. And what we always try to get across to partners is if you don't report it, we don't know it's happening and we can't build that bigger picture up. So the number people I think, oh, it's not worth it, but it absolutely is. Every incident is worth it because we can look at those areas of hotspots. We can try and tackle it as a bigger picture. So yeah, please use. If you've not seen the Travel Guardian app, please do download it. Funding, we also look at funding across the business and get quite clever with how we use our funding. We have a community rail pot, but actually in order to enhance our offering, I work with the crime and security team and say, well, are you looking at putting CCTV in at a certain area, and can we support that? Can we join up with funding so we can do it in more areas? Additionally, looking at funding from external partners. One of the really good things that and singing Justyna's praises here, what the Robin Hood line do is they're really, really good at working with district councils. When they know a hotspot is there, they will put a project forward like Distraction and get the necessary funding in, so it's not all one partner. And that goes back to that thing that I said at the beginning about partnership working being so essential. The more partners on board, even if you can't get financial help, you'll find that you can get a heck of a lot of in-kind help. And me sitting in the team I sit in within EMR, I have access to the crime and security team, the safeguarding team. I speak to BTP regularly. We speak to the railway children regularly, and we bring our volunteers and our CRPs on that journey with us to ensure that we're maximising that funding pot or the in-kind initiatives. So looking at one particular case study, when our safeguarding manager role was created, one of the first things that our crime and security overall manager did was work with the railway children to create a working group, and Justyna sits on this group as well as members of staff within EMR, lots and lots of local councils. And the specific aim was to target the Robin Hood line due to a significant amount of antisocial behaviour. It's really difficult to always pinpoint one area. We do have lots of antisocial behaviour, but unfortunately the Robin Hood line has been particularly bad, and that's because it is an area of high deprivation. What some of the most interesting results you can see on the screen now. Some of the most interesting results are some of the work that's happened by using that multi-partnership approach. So the railway children have that knowledge on the ground and know where the vulnerability is. And the field work that they do revealed significant concerns around Mansfield, and Tenter Lane is a particularly bad area. Just by that outreach work that the railway children do, and by ensuring that we're working with them so closely and having these, and we have bi-monthly meetings with them as a group and come up with all these actions, that location did involve a serious incident. And then the actions that you can see on the other side of the screen were everything that were implemented to improve that. On top of that, Justyna and the Robin Hood line and the CRP have created beautiful artwork in Mansfield and really tried to enhance the station in order to kind of discourage that behaviour. And one thing I think we all know, I think we're very, very fortunate in community rail, is when a station is cared for and looked after, and all of these actions that you can see on the screen are put in place, the difference is unbelievable. It's so, so important, and it's something we must continue to work together to do. People think just doing a bit of artwork is about it looking nice. It isn't. It's about the engagement of the schools, the rail safety that comes out of it, about an environment feeling nicer for passengers to travel, and therefore the antisocial behaviour, when it is identified, can be targeted really efficiently. And this is a really great example of how this was done. The railway children had multiple funders to support this project, and it has been running for a year. We called that phase 1, and we're now looking at phase 2, and the railway children are going out to get further funding to ensure that we can expand this project because it has been so successful. Other things that were really, really good around this is that they have managed to do lots of training, and Justyna will know, she attended one. They used the Court of Justice at Nottingham, and they did a day where you could learn about how to stop the bleed with the Stop the Bleed charity. So knife crime is very significant. I'm sure many of you will have heard about the incidences in Nottingham over last year. And it also involved training around rail safety, all of the things that are super, super important to stop that antisocial behaviour. So that multi-approach and that training approach was really, really great. They've also provided an incredible amount of networking, and I can't underestimate the new contacts. I'm sure Justyna will agree, the new contacts that we've both got out of this in order for us to go, oh, do you know what? Because Justyna works really on the ground with the station adopters and knows where problem areas are, she now has a portfolio of people she can reach out to say, actually, I've thought of this idea, or could we do this and could we do that? And we support each other. Teamwork makes it so, so much easier. Moving forward, what can we do more of, or what would we like to do better? So funding availability, that age-old thing of money, it's really, really tricky. Funding is really hard. I think we just need to be really clever at using partnerships and using in-kind people to maybe do a station clear up, groups that want to volunteer. We work with lots of businesses to do that. Something I'm personally working on and looking at, because we have lots of antisocial behaviour around children travelling on trains to schools and colleges. We have a lot of fare evasion, feet's on the seat, they don't know how to act appropriately. So I'm just writing a bit of an education piece around going into schools where we know it's particularly bad, where there's frequent travellers, and we're talking about how you would travel on a train appropriately. Lots of people have their music playing loud, and some people might not see that as antisocial behaviour, but actually when you're travelling on a train, you don't want a group of children shouting and, but they leave. I watched a kid the other day just tear up rubbish and just scatter it all over the train. It's just not nice. So I'm working on that at the moment. And it isn't just about targeting. We can target the schools initially where we know they're fare evading, but actually it's looking at the little ones and doing some primary work, because they're the people that are going to move on to those secondary schools. So if they know how to travel by train appropriately, and Justyna does lots of try the train trips, we know that they're going to travel appropriately when they're older. We also want to work with partners to create a payback. This has worked on our network before. We had a young offender break a window at a station, and as part of his restorative justice, he then built a planter for one of our station adoption groups. This worked really lovely because actually the outcomes for that young person is he hasn't reoffended again. And he was so proud that he showed his nana the planter that he'd built where it has been put at a station, and he just had ownership of that. So I think it's really important that we work harder on not writing these people off and saying, "Do you know what, oh, you can make this right." So restorative justice works really, really well, and working with youth offending groups is a really good way to do that. We want to increase our networking and making sure all stakeholders are involved, wider work with our station adopters and getting more information from them on the ground. It's really difficult when you have a large area to always pinpoint where the worst parts are, but the pilot scheme that we've done with the railway children on the Robin Hood line can definitely be put elsewhere on our network. So yeah, just ensuring that communication and those stakeholders are just really super important. And training, I think training can never be underestimated. How can we train? I want to further train station adopters to be able to understand how to deal with incidences, but it's training that's really important around Stop the Bleed, defib training, Samaritans training. There's quite a lot. So that's quite a long time of me talking. So thank you. I'm going to hand back to Hazel now. But yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kaye, and thank you, Justyna. That was brilliant, really informative, loads of information shared there. So I hope that people have got lots of questions to ask. So we're going to go into Q&A. So I know Hannah is monitoring the chat and Q&A as well. So Hannah, are there any questions in the chat or Q&A before we ask people to raise hands?
Yeah, we had Steve Booth at Purbeck asked about who are the railway children. Diana at Hebden, thank you, helpfully popped the link to them in there explaining they're a charity. So if anybody wanted to find out more about them, the link's in the chat for that. And then Steve also asked, what are the options to report antisocial behaviour? If Justyna and Kaye want to comment on that at this point, and maybe when we hear from Rebecca and Sarah later, they might have different take on that as well.
Okay, and we've got a question after that from Katrina Murray, which I'll bring in as well.
Great.
Okay, over to you guys.
Can I just say from Bolsover District Councils, it's the specific number, like as I just mentioned earlier, if you don't think you need to contact the police or even contact the police, and obviously we know they are busy, is a separate number when you can call from Bolsover District Council when you can report antisocial behavior.
Yeah, and
Okay.
sorry, Hazel, we really encourage the BTP number, the 61016, but also the Travel Guardian app. You can actually just log everything on there. So I would highly recommend everyone downloads a Travel Guardian app, and it's instant. I noticed a vulnerable person the other day, immediately put it on 61016, had an immediate response. So they're the two. 61016 is essential because BTP can build up that picture.
61016, isn't it?
Yeah.
PTP. Yeah, I'll pop those into the chat. Okay, great, thank you. And coming to Katrina. Katrina from Greening Arundel. Thank you for your question. I like the idea of restorative justice. How was that organised?
So, when an incident happens at our station, and this one specifically did happen at our station, and because it was an under 18, the youth offending team came to us and we knew this incident had happened and said we would really like to do some restorative justice with this young person. Can you name a station where he could do something? And then the community rail team got involved in order for that to take place. I have since worked with lots of other youth offending services. I would say that would be your first port of call. Now, they may not have done something at the station because often at rural stations you wouldn't always catch them. But what I would say is if there is some restorative justice happening in your community, they can give back in your community. And actually, the Youth Offending Service are really wonderful. There's going to be different contact details for different areas. So depending on where you live, I would reach out locally and find out who that would be. We were lucky that they came to us, but normally through the council, they'd be able to tell you.
Great. Oh, thank you for that, Kay. And any other questions in the chat? Let's see. There's no comments in there. So can we ask if anyone's got any other questions? Would anyone like to raise the hand and ask a question in person?
See, Warren Birch has got a hand raised, Hazel.
Lovely. Warren, I'm just asking you to unmute. So if you would like to come in and
Thank
ask
you,
your
Hazel.
question.
Good morning, everybody. Warren Birch from Community Rail Cumbria. It's a question for both ladies, really. I was just curious as to what the working relationship is between the local police and the British Transport Police. So we've had incidents in Cumbria where the BTP have had to travel quite a distance. It would have probably been beneficial if the local police had got involved. And I just think for me, there's a bit of a breakdown in communication between BTP and local police forces. And I just wonder what the circumstances are around your area.
I'm happy to just take this one first, Justyna, and then pass to you. Is that okay? So in terms of EMR, there are really strict rules around who deals with a call, BTP or the local police. What I would say is we have really great relationships with our PCSOs, the community police officers, and they tend to turn up and know the locals and they know their area much better and they are quick to react. We had somebody stabbed on the canal near Nottingham Station. They ran into the station. Does that be a police issue or a BTP issue? It is really confusing. I would say the first people that get there, they need to sort that between themselves. It becomes really conflicting. If something happens on a station, I would immediately do the 61016. However, the other week I was dealing with some antisocial behaviour out at the on Barton Humber line. And a fight started on a train, spilled into a car park. I sort of edged away into near a pub. There was no BTP nearby and the local police dealt with it. So I think it's really hit and miss, Warren. And I think it's something that's between the police and we have very little influence on. We just want the help. It's really tricky. Justyna, I don't know what it's like up on the Robin Hood line a bit more.
I just want to mention, which I really forgot to earlier, when we start these projects, this is like UK mentioned about working together as a partnerships. Looks like you say sometimes it's the communication could be lost. That's why we've got like every other week meetings with Bolsover community safety partnerships, like Bolsover District Council Enforcement Team, Bolsover District Leisure, Bolsover District Housing, Derbyshire Fire and Rescue, and Derbyshire Country Council. That's why we try to every 2 weeks meeting to just see the numbers and any issues, because not always it's like I say it's possible to have this meetings or connections with the BT.
In terms of what Kay was just talking about, though, Justyna, what's your experience of whether it's BTP that deals with things, whether it's local police? How does it sort of work in practicality?
I would probably say more than Bolsover District Council Enforcement. They are really working.
Okay.
Yes.
Lovely. Right. Okay. Lovely. Thank you. That's a little bit of a different approach, isn't it? Warren, does that answer your question? Okay.
It does, Hazel. Yeah, I think there is still some work to do on that, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's food for
absolutely.
thought. Yeah, definitely.
And there's a lot of learning within community rail, not just what you're hearing today, but there's a lot within community rail. There's a lot of case studies on our website, and we really encourage networking between officers and chairs and station adopters. So do sort of, glean from each other. So I've got David Wisehall with his hand up as well. So David, if you want to come in, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. David Wisehall from Heart of Hensford in Staffordshire. Um, we suffer sort of a fair amount of what you would call fairly low level antisocial behaviour, but it is very annoying. Our problem, or one of the problems we have, is actually identifying offenders. There is CCTV on the station, but we have to have a crime number for that. And if it's deemed low level by BTP, they won't give us a crime number. So the top can't then access the CCTV to have a look at who's offending. How do we overcome that?
Okay, and do you want to have a come in on that?
Yeah, I would say, David, we have similar. I'll give you one example. Syston Station was really suffering bad antisocial behaviour. Plants were being pulled out, and you can imagine we spend a fortune on plants, or the adopters do. Somebody was defecating on the station every day in the same spot. We had rocks and things being thrown all over. CCTV was there. You're right, you can't always access a CCTV. So we did something different. We did a community action day. Community Rail Network funded a big banner to say that this station is looked after by volunteers. Please respect it. We then, on the community action day, got BTP down with Network Rail and the community safety team and did a targeted sort of off when we knew the youngsters were coming off the train. We were around, it was like that presence. We also increased our BTP presence in that area just for a little while, or got travel safe officers down there. It's not a cure, but it is a prevention. We had a little tiny spate of some more antisocial behaviour, but it did stop it for a good 6 months. Presence and prominence at a station definitely works. Get them down there. That was great for us. Worked really well.
Lovely. That's a great example. Is that okay, David? Does that help?
Yeah, I really like the idea of having a banner up saying that that the station is looked after by adopters, because we've had an incident recently where we had planters trashed basically, and somebody came on Facebook thinking it was the council's fault. That we work for the council. We're an authority figure, so we deserve to have it trashed, sort of thing.
Crikey.
Um,
So you may be able to apply for a small grant to Community Rail Network to organise a banner. I mean, you could include requests for volunteers as well, David, and see if you can bring some of the young people in to help volunteer. And I mean, assuming that's making a big assumption that it's young people that are doing the antisocial behaviour. It isn't always, of course, but if you can engage and involve people, then it absolutely helps to reduce that as well, doesn't it? So have a conversation with your Community Rail Network support and development team member that you link in with. Do you know who that is?
it's Paul.
Paul Webster.
Webster, yes.
Lovely. Okay. Thank you, David. That's lovely. We have got a question in the chat as well. Dawn Whitfield asks, can Kaye elaborate a bit more on the outreach services that operate in a problem area, and how do they actually make contact with termed the problem youths in this question?
Yeah, we're probably going to refer to Justyna to answer this as well, because Justyna sits on the Robin Hood Line working group with the railway children. But in a nutshell, when an area is identified, and Justyna will correct me if I'm wrong here, the groups are like the charities that are like alcohol, AA, and I can't give you specific names because they never listed the whole list of people, but like drug groups, they will go out and they have outreach workers that will naturally go and look after homeless people. Justyna, does that make sense? it's that group of people that are just naturally in the area that probably work for the council, like Ad Action. There's probably loads. I could probably send some further info on and get the final list for you. But yeah, and let Justyna, you know any off the top of your head. But we leave that to the council, and that's the importance of the working of the partnership.
Okay. Have you got anything to add, Justyna? Okay.
No.
Yeah, and I suppose whatever you can provide, Kaye, people can then look, right, there must be something similar in our area and so on. It's just doing a bit more exploration, isn't it? Okay, so I can't actually see any questions in the chat. Now, Diana from Hebden Bridge has just put a comment in actually, and she says, my understanding is that there is legislation which prevents people under 16 just turning up to volunteer. They need an adult with enhanced DBS. Yeah, I think that is absolutely the case. And you wouldn't just encourage somebody just to turn up. There is due process to follow, and you would need to make sure that you're doing that for sure. Are there any more questions? Does anybody else want to stick a hand up and ask a question? Or Hannah, have I missed anything in the chat that is still outstanding?
Nothing that's come up in the chat other than what you've already picked up on. There are some links that people have been posting in the Travel Guardian app someone's shared as well. So yep, that's all there.
Okay. If there's no further questions, I'm just checking. I can't see anybody's hand up, and there's nothing in the chat. So we're going to give you the gift of time, and we'll take an early break. So it's now 10:52, and so let's come back on at 5 past. We'll just come on 5 minutes earlier because that still gives you a significant break. So go put the kettle on, stretch your legs, and we'll see you back on at 11:05. Thank you, everyone. That's been great. Thank you. So I'm hoping everyone's back. I can't really see everybody on my screen. I've got that many things open. But yeah, welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your little bit of a break. And now we're moving into the second half of our webinar. And I'm delighted to now introduce Rebecca Stiles and Sarah Morgan, who will be talking to you about their fabulous project, the Swap Shop at Bridlington Station. So over to you both.
Hi, I'm just waiting for our screen to share. However, go, Sarah's starting. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Right, so this is going to be a double act between myself and Sarah. Just to give a little bit of context, I work as Regional Community Sustainability Manager in the Central region, which includes Bridlington in Stockport. Sarah is going to come at it from the aspect that she used to be the Community Rail Officer for said line in Stockport, but she now has come across to the dark side and works for us at Northern. The same role, just looks after different stations. So do you want to introduce yourself, Sarah?
Oh, hold on a sec. I'm just seeing if my slides are working properly. Morning, everybody. So my name's Sarah Morgan. I've been working with John Kenny for Stockport Council as Community Rail Officer for the Crewe to Manchester and South East Manchester Community Rail Partnerships for 3 years before I started at Northern in February. So I work very closely with Becky Stiles as our Regional Community and Sustainability Manager. And Bridlington was one of our stations of interest, really, as a station in an area with some problem behaviours and challenges for our station adopter. So Becky's going to run you through a little bit of background about Bridlington as somebody who lived locally to Bridlington and understands kind of how some of these problems came about in the community.
Right. So Bridlington Station was built as part of an overspill estate, and as the slide says, it was built in the 1950s. the concept in the 1950s, I think, for estate building was a bit different than it is these days. So it was basically built to enclose everybody into one space with a in-road and an out-road. So Brinnington sits within a road. You have one road on and one road off, and the buses are circular that goes around it and then leaves the area. It used to have sort of a shopping parade and everything like a working men's club, pubs, chippies, that kind of thing, all together in one place at the beginning of the estate. And there was also one in the middle opposite the station. So you'd get your provisions, and I think the general consensus in the 50s was everybody just stayed put, which obviously doesn't work for today's building. There is parts of Brinnington now where there's new builds taking place on shared ownership for the housing associations and things. So it is very, very slowly changing its demographic, but it still remains the highest level of deprivation, probably in one of the areas in Greater Manchester, so within Transport for Greater Manchester area. There is no high school on Brinnington Estate either. So there's a number of primary schools, but no high school. So a lot of the children then will have two choices. They'll either go towards Bredbury, which is the local Roman Catholic high school, or they'll go to Reddish Vale, which is about a mile's walk away, which is the local, so not like the regular high school, not the not religious one. So some of these children will get on the train for the first time when they make that journey to high school. So going back historically, because there's not a lot going on, and I know that that Justyna and Kaye mentioned on their slides, when there's an area with not much going on or perceived not to have much going on for young people, they then migrate to other areas. And the number of problems we were having was, it all comes under antisocial behaviour, but they were quite specific that our adopters couldn't put anything on the station because it would be thrown on the tracks. So we could get impressive looking heavy planters, and they'd end up having like fights with the plants out of them on from one side of the station to the other, just throwing them across the tracks. There was also antisocial behaviour on the trains where as well as fare evasion to the next stop, etc., there'd be where people would jump on and let the fire extinguishers off or take them or steal them off the train. So the background of this is that there is stuff there now. There's a leisure centre and things like that, but it still remains the same. Where the station sits is right in the middle of this estate. So it's not near the leisure centre. It's not near, apart from a local shop, it's not near much. So I think people kind of, and it's a shelter for when it rains. So if there's nothing much doing, I suppose people used to go and sit on the platforms. So all the notice cases were all vandalised. In fact, at one point, I don't think we had any because they just kept getting thrown out, and loads of litter and things. So it wasn't really, Sarah's going to tell you in the next slide about what decisions we made, and it was a conscious decision, but Swap Shop sort of came out of the local people rather than something the railways. We made the space for it, and the two guys who worked at Brinnington, Darren and Stu, had a lot of input in how this was managed, because it couldn't have been managed without Northern support. But it was a vision that started basically from a table near the door. So I hope that tells you a little bit about Brinnington, and that it is an area now that is beginning to change and have new residents on it, but it's going to be a slow process. And then if you go on to the next slide, Sarah will tell you a little bit about Swap Shop and how it started.
Thank you, Becky. So yeah, I'm going to go through a range of projects that took place. The Swap Shop is kind of the central and largest project that occurred at Brinnington, that had the most community impact in terms of engagement. But there were a number of projects that were going on in the space of a couple of years, really, with a focus on Brinnington. which really kind of came together to complement each other. So one as my in my role as community rail officer, I decided to engage with what was called the Brinnington Forum, which was local organisations, voluntary groups coming together with interest in improving Brinnington, improving community connection, health, reducing antisocial behaviour. Through attending this forum, which was hosted by the local leisure centre, Life Leisure, I became aware of a community mapping activity that had taken place. Its initial intention was that it increased activity in the community, as this was highlighted as an issue which was impacting residents' health. So a variety of maps were developed and have continued to be developed since the initial 3 were done, which highlighted community locations, really assets to the community. So that was green spaces, community hubs. So these maps are really beautifully designed in partnership with the community, and I think, let me just see. Oh yeah, I've got one on the next slide. These were then displayed at the station as one of the first phases of the artwork display project. So that those community maps were shown in the centre of the community, but also at the station. Another project which took place was something which Becky led on, and that was using an education train set, which is basically a model train which has which highlights safety concerns on the railway, such as it shows kites coming close to the overhead lines. It shows the level crossing. It shows children sitting on the edge of the platform. So it shows a variety of issues within the model railway set that children can kind of look at and engage with, as well as a video which goes with that. And that was delivered by Becky and a colleague at Northern Trains to the local community. Another project which I became involved in was a network rail initiative, which was specifically designed to reduce antisocial behaviour, with our understanding that displaying community-led artwork at stations does reduce antisocial behaviour, and there's a good amount of evidence for that. So on this slide, in the bottom picture, you can see a picture of benches within a shelter which has been painted red. It's been painted many colours by the community, but the red has stuck around, and the reason that is because we've displayed on that wall community-led artwork. So children designed in partnership again with Life Leisure a variety of railway-themed artworks. Unfortunately, due to COVID, these artworks didn't get sort of progressed into a final design by Network Rail. So the Community Rail Partnership worked with them and the station adopter, who was quite artistic, to bring these artworks together into these 3 designs, which you can see displaying the viaduct, a train and a train ticket. So although these artworks have been kind of pulled a little bit at the corner and scratched in minor ways over the last few years, they've actually fared really well, and in this shelter, which used to see a huge amount of antisocial behaviour, but that has improved significantly since the artwork was displayed. So the big piece of work that went on was the swap shop, and you can see the picture of the swap shop sign that's in the window there. So the swap shop was essentially a charity shop within the station ticket office, but it was all free. So community members could bring donated items. So there was lots of DVDs, lots of books, children's toys, a variety of clothes were on display, hanging on rails and in boxes that community members could come and pick up and take away and donate their old items. So this initiative was supported by the Regional Community and Sustainability Manager and the Station Manager. So through the time of the swap shop, there was this attracted new volunteers to the station, and a Facebook page was also set up. So for larger items that were going spare in the community, such as fridges or furniture, prams, community members could join the swap shop Facebook group and exchange their items on there free of charge. So the interest in the swap shop and therefore the station increased massively, and volunteers started coming in to tidy up the swap shop each day and keep the station looking good as part of the swap shop. And the final piece of work that went on was the station adopter, who was engaged with through Northern and through the Community Rail Partnership. The station adopter had been planting on the platform for a number of years and finding that the plants were getting pulled up over and over again. So we discussed ways to manage that, different types of planting. Some new plants went in on the platform, but a decision was made to put new planters at the front of the station, as you can see on the slide. And these planters were in a position whereby they would be protected when the shutters went down at night on the station. So there was much less risk of antisocial behaviour occurring. And it was just a beautiful welcome to the station to see these new planters at the front. So just a collaborative effort really to support an alternative type of planting for the station adopter, who then went on to also source his own sort of historical photos of the station as well and display those inside the swap shop. So a huge amount of kind of engagement, partnership working and networking went on to bring everything together at Brinnington. And this sort of, which was, with the swap shop at the heart of it as the major project. And all of these things have had a really positive effect, which I'll let Becky run through in the next slide.
Right, so flick the slide over.
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a slide hesitation. There we go.
There we go. Right, so the pictures is of one of the maps that we're talking about, which is basically we've got 3 different ones. So I noticed that came but so the outcome. So I've got round to this, and I noticed that a question popped up in the chat around it as well to do with artwork. So increased footfall through the station. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean people travelling. So a lot of the thing is, do you count by how many tickets you sell, or what you achieve on the ground? So you may have people who've never been on a train, or very rarely do, and then they've come through swap shop maybe to drop items, maybe to collect items. We also ran over the summer holidays a breakfast item for children as well, because quite often we'd have children turning up hungry. So where it was milk and fruit, or a drink and crisps and things over the summer as well from swap shop, and that again brought people in. So yes, as an operator, we want to see footfall increase at the station. Also, we want to see people come through the door for whatever reason. So quite often there's not been a time I've not been to Brinnington where there's not been people within the swap shop. It's managed that it stays open from all the hours that the station's open, and it has no cost whatsoever to it. So you bring something, you take it away. If it's too large, it goes into the Facebook group. We've actually done full flats, because Brinnington has a number of high-rise blocks as well. So when people say leave care or may leave prison, and they've got themselves a flat on the estate and they turn up with nothing, so from swap shop without stuff coming through the station, we've managed to do full flats for people and things like that. Don't tell the station manager, because we might have used his van for the odd bed and sofa. So a measurable decrease in antisocial behaviour on the Network Rail Route Crime Report. So each month we get statistics from Network Rail, which will gauge how many reported items. That could be through British Transport Police, it could be through our own systems, from conductors putting in reports, stations putting in reports, community members putting in reports. Bridlington always used to sit within the Northwest route around in the top 20, which when you consider it to some of the large stations, when we've got, stations the size of Victoria, Preston, Piccadilly and so on, for a small station to end up that high up on antisocial behaviour was really needed some work on it. Bridlington hasn't appeared anywhere on the route crime report now for at least 2 years. Part of the reason for that is when the community feel like they own something, like it's theirs, they don't want other people. So if somebody goes giving cheek and things like that in the swap shop, some of the other kids or whatever will come and say, "Oh, no, don't go in there, don't go making trouble, because that's our place." So they don't hang around for some reason as well. So we don't have them sat on the platforms anymore. We have more of them that will come through and purchase a ticket, although, as Kaye and Justyna said earlier, quite often with young people it is a lot of ticketless travel, which we do still have. And basically the community sort of polices it. So if anybody's in the swap shop taking more than their fair share, etc., which you can do because it has no fee or anything to it, the actual local community will say, "Oh, you leave some of that for somebody else," or that kind of thing. So, and also some of the volunteers who generally just mums and dads off the estate who've helped tidy up have now gone to college because of that, because it's given them the confidence to get out there and see what else is available. And I know one of them, because uses a bearer pass as well of ours to go to college once a week, because she can't afford to go, but because she helps out as a volunteer, that's helped with her as well. So she's doing her GCSEs at Stockport College. Then we've got, so obviously there has been recognition for Swap Shop and for which has been like on national telly and radio. Most people have seen it. And because of it, it's unusual, I think, in itself, that I've not seen anything like this before. So it's been, I think, 4 or 5 years now, and at the moment I'm looking at other ways of doing it. I'm not sure what the future is going forward for it, but it's still operating at the minute. But I'm going to look at how that can be modified. So we got a customer report 100% satisfaction for cleanliness, ease of access to the station. And that was rail periods 3 and 4, so the middle of 2024, and the same periods again. So that of the overall data, the other thing is with the question to do with the artwork, is the walls before and any poster casings we put onto the walls at Bridlington Station were ripped off, thrown on the tracks, vandalised or graffitied. None of these posters, none of the artwork and none of the maps have ever been vandalised, thrown on the tracks or graffitied. So I would say that possibly is to do with community ownership. The outside of the building is in good condition as well. So over to Sarah.
Thanks, Becky. So yeah, I just wanted to cover another couple of ways in which Northern Trains is currently working to address antisocial behaviour. Obviously, Becky and I work with station adoption groups and community rail partnerships across quite a significant area. I can't even count the number of stations we've got, Becky, hundreds. So yeah, a lot of our work is supporting artwork and gardening activities, which we know enhance the station environment, improve customer experience and perception of safety. Where the stations which are a particular concern to customers, as highlighted in our scorecards, which involve questionnaires to passengers using the railway. We look at focusing particular activities and trials at those stations which have the lowest scores. So one of the ideas to address antisocial behaviour was to play classical music, and a trial was run in 2022, which was successful in terms of customer response, that it was reducing the gathering of groups of young people that were causing a nuisance at the station. Apparently they didn't like the classical music and went elsewhere. So this was then rolled out to further stations. And this sort of carries on. So if a station is highlighted as raising a concern, we will roll out classical music into that station, and that's recently been done at St Helens Junction Station. We're also in the process of running a trial of using marketing materials on shelters, because shelters are a particular target for antisocial behaviour. It's great to see that a lot of community rail partnerships are also using shelters as a place to display artwork as well. There's some amazing examples, but on this picture we've got our marketing material, which is quite attractive material, obviously using our branding, and that's been put over 3 shelters at different stations, and we've had positive responses to 2 of those, but highlighted that there was a problem with the adhesion of the images to one of the shelters, which was possibly not improving our scores. So that seems to be going really well, and we'll look at potentially rolling that out at other stations as well. So that concludes our slides. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to Becky as well.
Thank you so much. Wow, that is absolutely inspirational hearing all of that. And I know, over the years, antisocial behaviour is something that Community Rail has been tackling for a long, long time. I'm going to bring in Mark's question in a minute, because I think we might have some input to that as well, and other people may. But it absolutely is proven that community ownership of a station absolutely helps to reduce antisocial behaviour in whatever shape or form that might be. Classical music is inspired, I have to say. I used to work in an arts in mental health charity, and we actually did a conference about the impact of classical music and various types of music on people's mental health and well-being. So ultimately, that's the impact being carried forward to how they then behave, isn't it? And so on. So that's absolutely inspired. Wonderful. So I know Mark had the question about the evidence that shows that artwork reduces antisocial behaviour, and I know you've already addressed that, Becky. So I just wanted to ask Alex Peel, our Alex from Community Rail Network, if there's anywhere specifically where Mark can look at this evidence, because I think you want it to do with, I don't know if it's to do with raising funds or a project at Whitwell Station. But Alex, have you got anything to add to that?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, we've got you.
Okay. I'm not sure. Let me have a think about that. Sorry, I wasn't connected into thinking about that particular question.
Oh, that's
So
okay. That's cool.
you've caught me by surprise there. So
Yeah.
let me have a little bit of a think, and I will get back to Mark directly.
Lovely. Thanks, Alex. I know it's something when I very first came into Community Rail, that I was told about like vandalism on the railways and things. The key to helping resolve that was engaging with the young people who were actually undertaking the vandalism and getting them to create proper artwork and so on. And it really, really does work. Okay, so let's see. So we've got a comment from Diana at Hebden Bridge. So she says, we've had a book swap library for many years, but we know that some people take large quantities of books away. It may be that they try to sell them in secondhand bookshops. Someone was seen taking away a rucksack full, but we were unable to get anyone to look at the CCTV. Diana, do you want to speak about that? I mean, it's not a question, it's a little bit of a statement, but do you want to speak about that at all?
Yeah, well, I can also say what else we've done. When you said about the classical music, we have had a public piano in our waiting room for some years, and it was vandalised last year. But we got some funding from our local ward forum grant, and we've just this week replaced the vandalised piano and tried to put some sort of things like we've chained the piano stool to one of the benches that people sit on, and we've secured the lid of the piano at the top so they can't get into the hammers and wreck those. So hopefully this public piano will last a bit longer than, I think the other one lasted quite a long time, but we're hoping this one will do better. But it would be lovely to see if we could find a way, of getting people to come and play it regularly, or somebody learning the piano that can't fit a piano in their little tiny house at home might want to try the piano in the waiting room. So I'm not quite sure how we can progress that, but that's something we're thinking about this week. And the other thing I was going to comment on was the fact that you seem to have focused in the antisocial behaviour on younger people, whereas Hebden Bridge tends to get drunken adults, either from things like hen and stag parties or groups of people coming in to watch sports events in the local pubs, and then ending up all being drunk on the station. And then if the station's trains are delayed or cancelled, we're more likely to get antisocial behaviour on the station at those sort of times. Okay. So I don't know whether anybody's got anything that they can help with ideas for antisocial behaviour in adults.
Okay, thank you, Diana. So I know Hannah, Hannah Cottrell has got a hand up, so I'll bring Hannah in a minute. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I think I mentioned earlier, it's not just young people. Antisocial behaviour takes many forms, and drunken people and the rail ale trails actually did the railway no favours, because it brought on a lot of that kind of behaviour as well. But Hannah, do you want to come in on that with Diana?
Thanks, Hazel. Yeah, it's just a little bit of local knowledge. Hi, Diana. I'm up the road in Tomerdon, so I know Hebden Bridge well, and I know the piano. And it came to mind. It was mentioned in an earlier presentation about the messaging around when something's been donated and helping people to understand that. And I just wondered if you have put any simple signage up around the piano to say that obviously it's been donated and is something for everyone to enjoy. I'm sure you have, but it's just little things like that which can potentially make that difference around vandalism. Chaining the stall is obviously a great idea to secure it not walking off, but it also sends a message that you're almost anticipating that behaviour. So it's trying to find that balance, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we probably could do with replace. There was a poster up by the piano, but I don't think we've replaced it yet, because it only came in last week. So that is something. I'll make a note of that.
I think it's just those simple messages that maybe stop somebody and they think twice before they do what they're going to do. Not always, but also you asked about encouraging someone who may not have access to an instrument to play, and this goes back to what our presenters said about engaging and collaborating. I know there's a local charity called Music for the Many, and they have young people. They work with young people who are disadvantaged and don't have access to instruments, and so there might be a way to work with them. And
yes, I already work with them, and I was planning to.
And that might apply to other groups who, if you're doing something with musical instruments, there may be a local charity that's similar. It's that thing of looking around local knowledge, seeing who else you can partner with and really start to build that awareness and get.
We might be able to tell the local schools as well, I suppose. Yeah, you've given me some ideas there. And HebWeb.
That's really great, actually. Diana, do you know about the Community Rail Education Network at all that Karen Bennett leads?
Karen Bennett rings a name. Yes, that rings a bell. I've been to a railway conference when she gave a talk. Yeah.
Yes.
So Karen Bennett, you think I should contact?
Well, Karen can help with helping you to look at how you might be able to get into schools and engage with young people. But I think Hannah's suggestion of working with some of your local groups, the first thing that came to my mind was, is there an artist or a group like that who can set up community sessions in the station itself, where you know, and encourage people to come and have a go at playing the piano, that kind of thing. Community ownership is absolutely key, and just whichever way, however you can do that, that I think really is the key for it. So, has anyone else got anything to contribute or questions to ask for Becky and Sarah? There's a couple of comments. Verity says she's a book fairy and she does reading on the rails. We have a lot of brand new books direct from publishers, so I use book fairy stickers on the front. Katrina says from Greening Arundel, there's a bit of graffiti on the picnic table we installed. Embracing that, we are planning to get young people to work with a professional artist to create a piece of graffiti art on the table. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, and Hannah's just put a link in about the Community Rail Education Network into the chat there as well for you, Diana. So has anybody got any other questions for Becky and Sarah, please? No? Anyone want to raise a hand? I think it's absolutely inspirational, all the work that has been going on, and everything's going to be shared from today. There'll be the recording of the webinar, the presentations will be available, but the one thing that we really, really encourage is that networking. We've got the Community Rail Education Network for anyone who does want to engage with schools, etc. Oh, Stephen, you've got your hand up. Stephen from Purbeck, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just thanks, Hazel. I just wanted to ask, because I've heard a lot about classical music and how it can deter antisocial behaviour. Can one of the ladies who just presented for Northern just explain why it is classical, or what is specific about that to other forms of music? Or
do you want me? I'll try to answer it. It's just from what our evidence suggests is that young people who are congregating on stations aren't interested in classical music. If we played like hip hop rave, they'd probably have more of them on the station.
Or Oasis.
Well, that's of a certain age now. That's subjective, isn't it? I think no. So basically, what we've found out is that young people don't want to sit around listening to classical music. They want to play tunes and TikTok and all that on the phones. So they just clear off because they find it annoying. The other one we did at one station a few years ago as well was painted the inside of the shelter pink. And that really naffed everybody off and they never came back. So we try all kinds of things. But yeah, it just seems to work in our area.
Okay, thank you.
That's really interesting, Becky, that the classical music is being used as a deterrent. Yeah, and colours are being used as deterrents. And then there's the flip side of the coin where classical music, we held a conference about the effects on the brain waves, and you know it can actually help reduce stress and reduce cortisol and all that kind of thing. So ultimately impacting and creating positive behaviour. But yeah, it's really interesting that it's actually a deterrent. So yeah, okay. So somebody's Hannah, brilliant, thank you. You've put in the insights about classical music there. Wonderful.
I just found an article very quickly. I haven't read it, so
yeah,
can't comment on the the quality of it. But there's lots of stuff out there, as Hazel said. I know London Underground stations for a long time. When I lived in London, some of them would have at Stockwell, for example, they had classical music, and as you said, Hazel, it's about how it helps reduce stress. And but jazz might have the same effect for some people. Who knows?
It absolutely does. It's not just classical music, it's different types of music. It changes the state in people, and there is evidence out there for this. Somebody called Professor Paul Robertson was a specialist. That's quite a long time ago. I don't know if he's still around, but he actually did a lot of research and has got the evidence around that. Okay, is there anything else in the chat, or are there any other hands raised?
I can see Diana's raising her hand at the screen.
Well, I was just going to add to that fact that I'd like to see the classical music being used in the positive sense, and there has been research to show all these positive effects. However, there has also been research to show that certain types of music, classical music, were used on, I think, antisocial areas in buildings, on housing estates, on communal buildings, by playing classical music in the stairwells, that there was a deterrent effect on vandalism and antisocial behaviour. So there's definitely some evidence out there online, presumably, to show
Just
this.
to
I wouldn't like that.
Just to comment further on that. So it's a double-edged thing. So it will deter some people who don't want to listen to classical music. And then obviously it will have a calming effect on others. The only thing I can compare it to is on Christmas Eve at Manchester Piccadilly, we play Christmas songs, one about every 15 minutes over the tannoy. And people's mood changes.
Yeah.
So they'll start, instead of like scrapping for the last train or whatever home, because I help close down Piccadilly on Christmas Eve every year, and I really enjoy it. And then every 15 minutes we'll put a Christmas song on, and people's whole demeanour and attitude changes. So it's not just it's not that, it's just looking at what techniques you can find that helps. There must be some psychology in it. I mean, like Piccadilly isn't actually like a northern station, but it is something that I've picked up on. And then even I start smiling, and that says something.
Do you know, it's fantastic, Becky, because there is evidence out there. There's definite evidence about the effect on people's cortisol levels, stress levels, and mood changes. And music really, really can affect moods. So absolutely, that's wonderful. I think I'm going to come to Manchester Piccadilly on Christmas Eve. Sounds fab. So come and help you. Okay, have we any further questions at all? Considering we had loads of time, there's been great interactions, and it's actually taken us right up to time. So David Wisehall, David's got his hand up, I think. Yeah. If you want to come in, David.
Yeah, we've got in close proximity to our station a number of houses and flats, and I don't think playing classical music 24/7 would probably go down very well. I believe that there is a scheme or a method of dispersing youngsters as well with it's a high frequency buzz, basically, that I don't know whether that's legal. I don't know whether it's available, but I'm sure I've heard it in the past that that might be more effective than to disperse crowds of youngsters, because it affects their hearing. As you age, your hearing diminishes, and I think that's an alternative as well.
David, I'll just reassure you that classical music, isn't played loudly.
No,
it's just loud enough to be heard.
Yeah.
And also, we only play it during the times that the railway's in operation. We don't play it 24/7.
No, I can understand that. I'm just anticipating that because I mean within probably 10 or 15 meters of the platform, that there is housing.
Yeah, we risk assess which are the appropriate stations to do it on.
Yeah.
So it'll be specific stations that we do it on, and like I say, we do it during train running time when members of the public will hear the trains anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the idea, to be honest. I think it's a brilliant idea.
And interesting about this buzz situation, I mean, it's similar to, like, you can get contraptions for dogs where you interrupt their behaviour with an implement that buzzes. But like you say, whether that is legal or not, who knows? So that's something to look into. But thank you for that, David. We've got another question from Warren, and then I'm going to wrap up, I think. So, Warren, if you want to jump in, please.
Yeah, thanks, Hazel. Just following up to what David was saying. Interestingly enough, they did the high pitch sound at the Picture House in Workington. So you would have a staircase leading up to the sort of the entrance to the pictures, and sort of young groups would basically gather there, and I went in with our two boys one day, and they said, God, what's that awful noise? It's absolutely, and I couldn't hear it at all. It kind of the trial worked at Workington Picture House. Just a bit of a follow up to what David was saying, really.
I suppose it's getting the balance right, though, isn't it? Where, you want to deter antisocial behaviour, but you don't want to scare young people off from using the railways.
Absolutely.
We want to encourage them to be using the railways, don't we? But using them in an appropriate manner. So
it's not nice for little babies and children then to be legitimate travellers of the train.
No. Exactly, Diana. Okay, I think we're just going to need to bring everything to a close. If you have any further questions, anything you want to ask our team, you can always email the support and development team if you want to get in touch with anybody who has spoken today. I'm hoping that perhaps all our speakers would welcome some contact via us. That would be great. We'll just sort of bring everything to a close. So I just want to say to all of you who have been watching today, thank you for joining us and thank you for your contributions. I hope you've enjoyed today's session and you feel inspired by what you've heard. A big thank you to Justyna, Kaye, Rebecca and Sarah. And thanks as always, to Hannah for her backstage support. Really inspirational stuff today, and I hope you take away a lot from it. And just a final plug, everyone knows what's coming here. The feedback survey. If you will take a few minutes to fill that out, that would be great. It helps inform us for all our future webinars. And a window will pop up as we close the webinar today. The survey is very brief and your input's really valuable. If you don't have time to fill it out now, we will be emailing a link to it as well. So it's just, once again, thank you to our wonderful speakers today and thank you to all of you. We'll see you next time and goodbye from me and the team. Thank you.